ability to record. Thanks to them for that today. Now, I'd love to be able to introduce you to some other folks behind the curtain, those that make the magic happen. And I'd like to introduce you to the Executive Director of California Park and Recreation Society, Stephanie Stevens.
Good morning. Happy Monday, everybody. How are you today? It is so nice to start the week off with all of you guys. It's nice to see some faces and some smiles over here. So thank you for inviting me to be a part of this morning. And congratulations to Tamara, Anthony, and Danny. What a great work you guys have done to put this entire conference together. Nice work, people. Good job. And you know what? We are learning from you as well as we get ready to put on our virtual conference in March of 2021. So thanks for going first. We appreciate that and teaching us. So my advice to you all for the next couple of days is to really use these days to recharge your batteries, to refresh your spirit, to really reset your intentions, because we're moving into not only tough times because of COVID, but also because the holiday season is coming. Folks are really stressed out right now. So use the next couple of days to really recharge and refresh as we move into the holiday season. Take good care of yourselves. That's what's so important. So here at CPRS at headquarters, we are busy working on our virtual Connections Conference for March of 21. And we'll have a lot more information coming soon, probably in the next week or so, about registration fees, the full schedule. I know I'm understanding it's a little hard to hear me, but I apologize for that. So I'm actually sitting in my car because I'm getting ready to go into another meeting myself. But at any rate, conference is coming along well. We are working with our districts and sections to put together a full list of intensives and some really fun socials. So hopefully we'll have that information scheduled and sent out to you here pretty quickly. Awards applications are going to be going out here this next week as well, so be sure and watch for that. Get together with your team and figure out those programs, those people, those services that you're offering that are certainly award worthy. We want to make sure that you get those applications in by the end of the year. Also this week, we are really excited. We are going to actually put out a fitness challenge for every one of our CPRS members. We're calling it the District Dash. We've got a committee that has put that together, so watch for some more information about that. Everything's going to kick off the day after Thanksgiving, so that we can do the whole gobble wobble together. And it's gonna last actually through the day before conference starting in March. So we've got a little bit of time in there for everybody to get involved in our District Dash. So once again, thank you to Tamara, to Danny, to Anthony, to everybody in Region 1 who's made this conference possible. But really, truly, thank you to all of you for all the work that you do to keep your communities going and thriving and healthy and active. Thanks for showing up every day. Appreciate you. Know that you are very much appreciated and well taken care of on the back end. If you need anything, holler at us. We're here to help you in any way possible. Namaste, my friends.
Thank you so much, Stephanie. Always a pleasure to hear from you this morning. Next, I'd like to hear from CPRS President Tara G.
Well, good morning, everybody. I'm so honored to be here at the Region 1 CARES Conference. Wow, what a year this has been. I have been saying for a long time, statements, that this is an epic year with all the twists and turns that continue to have us chasing the 8 ball every day, sometimes hour by hour, over the last 8 months. And doesn't this last 8 months really feel like 2 years? Although through all of this, I have personally witnessed innovation and creativity that continues to serve our community's physical health and mental wellness through Parks and Recreation. I've heard about the valiant efforts from this sector of professionals who are working tirelessly to ensure our communities remain well and safe. We have remained on the job to maintain our parks, trails, and open spaces, and have been on the front line when resources are needed, even if it's not a traditional Parks and Recreation role. There have been no time prior than this year where it has become so evident that parks, open spaces, and programs have been so essential. The surge daily in our parks and trails have increased tenfold as people flock to our public spaces to rejuvenate. Our virtual programming has been a welcome distraction for all the stay-at-home orders. In a recent NRPA survey, 82% of the respondents considered Parks and Recreation as an essential or vital community service. 72% of the adults say that they are more likely to vote for a local leader who pays or who supports Parks and Recreation. That is so awesome. At the NRPA virtual conference, we talked about how COVID has highlighted our work as an essential service. Now, for the pragmatists, this word essential is saved for public safety and utility providers. And in today's times, essential is also refers to those in the health and food provider industries. And no one can argue the truth in that. They are the heartbeat that are keeping our communities going. But given that, I would also say that Parks and Recreation on a day-to-day, one-on-one basis is one of the primary community services that directly impacts the quality of life within our community. We are the soul of our communities. In times of good and times of need, Parks and Recreation has been the ones to reach out and ensure our senior residents don't become isolated. We've been the ones to help collect food and feed those in need. We've partnered with our public safety to coach and mentor children. In emergencies, our community centers become evacuation centers. We work with our schools to assist with distance learning, hybrid learning, or whatever new version of that is coming along the way. We provide preschool so parents can go to work and not worry about their children. We provide public spaces to ensure social equity. We play a key role in local economic vitality through our events and programs. We are the community problem solvers. And for that, again, I will say, we are the souls of our community. Up and down the state, we as Parks and Recreation professionals have done a tremendous job in ensuring that the souls of our community are not only providing key services through virtual programming, but also in reinvesting needed dollars into our parks and open spaces. Last year, many of our communities approved local measures to support our services. And this shows how valued our services are to our residents. And that was even before COVID. Arlington Heights Parks and Recreation District, there in Illinois, say, we put unity in community. CPRS is also your community. There is no time like now that better exemplifies how we have been able to come together to support and keep one another sane during these trying times. We've shared our virtual programs, our ideas, our newly learned tricks of the trade. There's no time like now to reaffirm that Parks and Recreation through CPRS is better together. Our connections with one another has made us stronger. So again, I'll say, we're better together. Keep up the good work. I would like to congratulate Region 1 for holding this virtual conference. We have loved to be there in person, to share, to hug, to support one another. But despite the circumstances, we are still here to learn, to share, and support. Thank you all for having me here, and enjoy the training.
Thank you so much, Tara. It has been a pleasure to hear from both you and Stephanie Stevens this morning. I did just also want to share with everyone that if you've loved hearing what some of our speakers have to say, we have a limited series podcast available, and that can be found on your schedule as well. Now, without further ado, we'd like to introduce this morning's keynote. He is Dr. Brandon Taylor from Fresno State University.
Good morning, everyone. Okay, wait, even virtually, we've got to have some energy. So I sit in classes 3 days a week with students, and I need to get the energy from you all this morning to get me through this week so I can get to Thanksgiving dinner next week. So good morning, everyone.
Morning, Dr. B.
Good
morning.
I love it. Thank you. I love it. So I'm here to talk about some focal points for JEDI work within CPRS, as well as your organizations and your agencies. So during this time, please feel free to add information into the chat and have some side discussions. I'm not opposed to that in any form. I'm not the only one with perspective and resources, so please share those, not only as we go along today, but throughout the rest of the year and moving into the future. So what I want to do is start off by just having a brief perspective shift in terms of the JEDI perspective. So I think most of you are familiar with JEDI, looking at justice, equity, diversity, and inclusion. And really, I want to have you think about some questions as I go along this morning. So under the justice perspective, what keeps some of your community members from participating in your organization or in your programs or services? What are those structural barriers that they are running into that we need to assist them to address, to overcome? In the equity area, how are you ensuring that all and that everyone has access to your organization? And how to make sure that those resources are allocated equitably to make sure that that access is there? Under diversity, how do you acknowledge the uniqueness of your community, right? We have a very diverse state, very much diversity throughout the entire state and all of our communities. How do we make sure that we are reaching out and acknowledging and celebrating those differences that we have and allowing those differences to bring us together? And then under inclusion, are you inviting and actively inviting diverse community members to engage in your services? So I want you to think about those as I go through kind of my top 5 list moving forward. As we move throughout the remainder of the discussion here, please jot down notes, areas of work within yourself, within your department that you may see within your community, as we will draw on those in a little bit later. All right. And now, for those of you who remember David Letterman, I'm about to get my David Letterman on with my top 5 focal points for Parks and Rec JEDI Masters. So for number 5, do the internal work that allows you to embrace the diverse perspectives within your community. It starts with us has become a cliche, but that's because it's true, right? We must understand ourselves, our beliefs, where those beliefs come from, and how they interact and engage in everything that we do, including our work. Think of it in terms of those beliefs as tinted glasses. The tint determines how we see things based on our own perspective and view of the world, right? So really start with the internal perspective there. Moving on to number 4, believe those who are marginalized or who have been marginalized and oppressed, right? Because of those tinted glasses that we all wear, we tend to lean in heavily into those things that we have personally experienced. And we oftentimes invalidate those things that we do not, right? We have an opportunity within our organizations to lift up the voices and perspectives of those who are most often suppressed, who don't have that opportunity to speak. We can provide that platform for them to be heard, believe them, and then act on what is shared. Number 3, identify the central issues and concerns within your department as well as your community. Dr. Heather Vielauer and I have been working on JEDI throughout the last 6 months or so, and we often talk about traveling in these 2 paths, which realizing that there's similar work that needs to be done, right? Within ourselves, within our department, within our community. Understand who is positioned to have authority and agency within each area. Examine how the social and economic and political structures of each play into a group's progress or lack thereof progress. We have the opportunity to identify where the resources are going to be allocated and what intentions are revealed in those allocations, right? Most oftentimes we can say where a program is going to be held. Is it this park or is it that park? Where a community center is going to be built, right? And where those resources are allocated shows some intent behind those decisions. Number 2, engage your community in creative solution identification and development, right? Reach out to the community for the answers. They have them. They know what they need. They just need the opportunity to express that. Ask the folks in your community, how can you serve them better, provide more accessible programming, and meet their individual needs. Too often we are prescriptive when we find issues and concerns. We find this issue, we find this problem, we're out to solve them. And we don't allow for the community to provide input. Allow the community to share with you and widen your perspectives and understanding. Hear them when they express the path forward to aid them in their growth and their journey. Remember the servant leadership perspective. In order to lead, we must first serve. And we can't serve if we don't know what our community needs. And then our number one, if I can get a drum roll, virtual drum roll here going. All right, our number one focal point for Parks and Recs and JEDI, believe in the power of parks and recreation and leisure services to influence community change. Too often, I feel that we are relegated, sometimes self-inflicted, to being the fun department for our organization, for the city, for the district. While we want to hold on to that engagement piece, we also have more power than that. I believe that we need to flex our political muscles and show the opportunity that we have there. I was having a conversation with a colleague in the Bay Area a couple of weeks ago, where we were talking about the difference between public safety and parks and recreation. And often in many forms is that public safety has a union. They have a voice that goes out and speaks for them, right? That invites people to council meetings, to board meetings, and so on and so forth. We as parks, recreation, and leisure professionals, I believe, need to realize the opportunity that we have for positive change within our communities. We are the conduit that brings folks together to address inequities, disparities, gaps within our communities. We develop plans to address them and meet the needs of those who are under-resourced and underserved. So what do you think? Those are my top 5. Things that I think we can focus on moving forward to reposition our agencies and organizations to meet the needs of our community. So hopefully you were jotting down some notes as we were going along there, because now is really your turn. I've put together a document where I would like each of you to identify which of those 5 do you need to work on, whether it's within your organization, whether it's within your yourself or your community, and identify one step that you can take prior to the end of this calendar year. And this is what I'm calling my public call to action. All right, so I'm putting in the chat a link there that'll send you to Padlet. And what you can do, it basically looks like a social media platform, is identify which of those 5 you feel that needs work, and what's one thing that you'll be able to do moving forward through the remainder of this calendar year. Now, you don't have to complete it right now. I'll provide it to Tamara and everyone who's facilitating to send out, but I will be checking to see if information is posted. Depending on how you're logged into your computer, it should be anonymous, and I'm not going to call you and say, hey, did you do this, did you do that? But I think that we can speak things into existence. So please take that opportunity there. So the last thing I'll leave you with is a quote from former President Lyndon B. Johnson from 1965. And the quote goes like this: "The American city should be a collection of communities where every member has a right to belong. It should be a place where every person feels safe on their streets and in the house of their friends. It should be a place where each individual's dignity and self-respect is strengthened by the respect and affection of their neighbors. It should be a place where each of us can find satisfaction and warmth, which comes from being a member of a community of people. This is what we sought at the dawn of civilization. It is what we seek today." Thank you for inviting me to be the opening keynote for your conference this week. I hope you enjoy the remainder of your time, and I look forward to connecting with you all moving forward. Thank you.
Dr. Taylor, thank you so much. I greatly appreciate you coming in and assisting us and being a great keynote and sharing your information with us today. The way that you've broken it down to 5 focal points and discussing it, it doesn't necessarily make it smaller by any means, but it's like that question, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And this was a very, very easily digestible bite that makes me want to keep going and keep learning more about this. So thank you for your time this morning. We have some couple minutes, and I know the group probably has some questions. So if you have a question, go ahead and pop it into the chat. But if you and I'm seeing a couple of items pop into that that link as well. So great job everyone for starting to engage. It's fantastic. If you have a question, go ahead and add it to the chat, and we can ask Dr. Taylor. But I did want to share, Dr. Taylor, do you know the day and time you have a session this week?
I need to look at my calendar. I believe it's Friday at 1 o'clock, but right now everything's day by day on my calendar, so I know that I'm presenting, Dr. Vilauer and I are presenting.
The work that the two of you have done for the society is fantastic. So thank you so much for everything you've provided.
Absolutely.
Everything you've provided. As we get started for the rest of the day, we'll let questions come in. So please don't let us chatting make it work. Is there something you think is of the 5 is the most important, or when you think of your experience within recreation that comes to mind most that you think we should be looking at?
I think accepting the community as they are, and looking at the culture within our communities, and realizing that oftentimes we uphold one group as a cultural norm, which often leaves others behind. So I think I often discuss our agencies in terms of the church, right? If you're a religious person, and the church should invite everyone into its doors, right? And now we know in reality that hasn't always been the case, but that should be the focus of the church. For me, that should be the focus of our organizations, is welcoming everyone in, taking them as they are, hearing them, providing resources back so that they can have the lives that they would like to have. So additionally, I would say the number 5 is probably the number 1 because it starts with us. So really trying to broaden our perspectives and what we know and allow those to be challenged is a key point in having the work being done. I often tell my students, conflict is a good thing because it stretches us, it makes us grow, it challenges our perspectives, and so on and so forth. So the more that we can have those challenges and have those discussions, I think the better off we are and we grow in those areas.
Fantastic insight, and thank you for sharing. One thing that we have, we're in the city of Pleasanton down here in District 3, in Bay Area, Alameda County, Contra Costa County. And one thing that for us in our agency is we've really taken the time to open up our spaces again. Our only building that's currently open is the library to the public. So our community centers and any of our sports buildings are not, with the exception of our pool. But one thing that I think it's kind of given us through the coronavirus, through shelter in place orders, is given us a chance in recreation, we never have this, to pause and to even consider how we want to be able to move to bring in these opportunities, or how were we looking at certain populations? Are we being able to give everyone equal access? And so it's been kind of a unique stretch to see how, in this downtime, or in this time where we don't have someone in our space, how do we reinvent ourselves? How are we being able to include others as well, which I think
Absolutely.
is fantastic.
For all the devastation that COVID has brought, the ability to pause and to really see where those inequities are and those disparities and those gaps are, I think is, for lack of better words, completely the silver lining that's there, right? And we saw who had resources and who didn't, even in terms of access to the internet, which I think most people think everyone has the internet, and this really brought it home that not everyone does have the internet when you look at kind of how the schools were operating and so on and so forth. So yeah, taking a look at what are those gaps within your community, I think is a good starting place to see where are services being provided, who are you providing those services to in comparison to what your community looks like, and things along those nature can definitely help.
We have a question from Henry P. from the town of Danville, and his question is, what may be the first step for a community that doesn't have a lot of diversity or is in a bit of a bubble need to take to make sure that they start to make a difference, that they're starting to make a difference?
So I think inviting in different perspectives, whether it be speakers, whether it be affinity groups to share. If we don't have the perspective ourselves, then I think we have to reach out and find it. So while I don't know what it's like to be someone who isn't me, right? I can hear their perspective, believe their perspective, which I think is one of the tough things for us oftentimes as well. And then have that opportunity to share the differences, share the experiences that we've had. So really inviting in is an opportunity. Right, we're not going to upend our organizations and kind of push people out to bring people in, and I'm not advocating that at all. But to be able to hear from others the different experiences that they've had within your communities, outside of your communities, is important. For those who don't know, I went to high school in the Bay Area, so I'm familiar with kind of the dynamics and things like that. And to be able to hear the different perspectives of, you know, for me, why I didn't go to certain communities when I was in high school because of certain concerns and issues. Even here, when I got to college, we didn't go into a certain community because of issues that were taking place. So I think bringing in the different perspectives, hearing from folks within your community who are of diverse backgrounds, which doesn't always mean race and ethnicity, right? Right now, I think the focus is there, but we're also talking about all of the other identities and dimensions of diversity as well. And oftentimes those get left behind, unfortunately.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I want to give time and space for our folks to take care of what they need to take care of before we jump into our 10 o'clock session this morning. But Dr. Taylor, thank you so much for being a part of our opening session and getting our CARE conference started off so nicely. If you'd like, is there anything else you'd like to share with us as we get started for this week?
No, I thank you for those who have their cameras on, because it's nice to see faces as I speak coming back at me, where, like I mentioned in my classes, that's not necessarily the case. It's great to see folks that I don't know and kind of virtual meet others that I do. I'll provide the 5 points, Tamara, to you so that you can disseminate those as well, because I've had some requests for those. But enjoy the rest of the conference. Hopefully some of you will jump into the session that I'm doing later this week, and I'll jump into sessions as well. So I'd love to connect with all of you at the appropriate time, and just thank you for the opportunity to speak this morning.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Dr. Taylor. It was a pleasure to have you this morning. For those that are still jumping on, or maybe you jumped on a little bit late, this session will be recorded, and that recording will, or this session is being recorded, and it will be shared with everyone. Like I said, give us end of day, end of tomorrow, maybe it's going to be by Friday. Let's figure out how we do this recording and sharing thing all together. But otherwise, hope you have a great day. Coronavirus is here, but it ain't ruining everything, just as the CARE says. So we hope you find your next session. If it's here in the yellow room, I will be a part of your room. So just sit tight, take care of what you need to take care of, and come on back. If you're in red or blue, go ahead and log out of this one and click the blue or the red link, and we'll see you guys later. Hope you have a great day, everyone.